Apparently, we need to talk about this again. I know, I can hear some of you already. But CJ, didn't we literally just have a conversation about evidence and confirmation bias? Well, yes, actually, yes, we did. And apparently the internet response to that was, well, that was fascinating. Anyway, so here we are again. Because once again, I'm seeing people worrying that something must have changed between Jimin and Jungkook. Because lately we're seeing Jungkook quite a lot on social media, posting with other members, including Taehyung, as well as J-Hope and Jin, though certain sections of the internet seem to want to ignore that. And he's posting comparatively little with Jimin. And from that observation, an entire story is being constructed. Jimin and Jungkook aren't spending time together anymore. They've grown apart. They must have broken up. Jungkook is suddenly spending all of his free time with Tae. Perhaps BigHit is now pushing TaeKook. And depending on which corner of the internet you've accidentally wandered into, we've apparently acquired several seasons of a Korean teen drama in the fandom that nobody actually remembers filming. So, do I really have to say it? Apparently I do. What we see on social media is evidence of what was posted on social media. And that's it. It is not a complete record of anyone's life. And before we go any further, I want to make something very clear, because this is an only facts video, and the distinction here matters enormously to me. I am not going to use the absence of JiKook on social media content as evidence that Jimin and Jungkook are together in their spare time, because that would also be ridiculous. We can't know that. But what I am saying is that you cannot use that absence as evidence they are not together in their spare time either. Those are two sides of exactly the same mistake. We do not know, and social media cannot tell us. Right. Hi, if you're new here. Welcome. I am CJ, and I make videos about JiKook, BTS, fandom discussions, and I also have a full channel full of JiKook fanfic, but this is where we discuss facts. The rule here is very simple. We separate what we have proof from what we do not have proof of. If that sounds like your kind of thing, then please hit the subscribe button. This is now where the only facts live, on @CJMoonFacts. All of it is here. Apparently there is no shortage of JiKook topics requiring this type of discussion, and for me to sit back and say, wait, but do we actually have any evidence of that? So first we need to talk about the data that we are actually working with here on this whole, kerfuffle? Kerfuffle is a good word for this. Because the sample we see on social media isn't remotely balanced. Lately, Jungkook has chosen to be relatively active online. This isn't always the case, but lately he is. He's all over Insta, he's done some TikTok, etc., both on his account and being reposted on others. Jimin, on the other hand, is not. So the point here is that Jimin isn't constantly posting himself with anyone, including Jungkook. He's simply not showing us much of his private life at all. His social media presence these days tends to be quite sparse, controlled, fairly neutral, focusing on brands, etc. So if Jimin spends Tuesday night having dinner with Jungkook and neither of them posts it, what evidence of that evening exists for us? None. If Jungkook goes to the gym with Tae on Wednesday and uploads a video, what evidence do we have that that exists? A video? And suddenly our data set contains 1 TaeKook interaction and 0 JiKook interactions. Does that tell us who Jungkook actually spent more time with that week? No, it doesn't. It tells us which interaction was uploaded. These are not the same thing. And actually, this is where it gets really interesting because people keep talking about this, don't they? This recent wave of, oh my God, Jungkook keeps posting TaeKook. So I went back and I've looked at what has actually been posted. And it's not what people are calling it at all. I looked at what was actually posted and from whose account it originated. The last post that we have from Jungkook that originated from his account, that was only him and Tae, was on the 20th of July. Since then, if we take out simple reshares, because all the members tend to reshare each other's stuff with reasonable regularity. So if we take out the reshares and we discount multiple uploads of the same piece of footage as separate events, because obviously it's not separate events, I have counted, I'm sure you guys will correct me if I'm wrong, but I've done this quite thoroughly. I have counted 10 distinct pieces of recent content involving Jungkook and Tae, originating from their two Instagram accounts. 8 of these 10 pieces originated from Tae's account. 2 originated from Jungkook's. And both the pieces that originated from Jungkook's account also involved J-Hope. So when people say Jungkook is posting all these pictures of TaeKook, that's not an accurate description of what's been happening. Jungkook has absolutely posted with Tae before, not pretending otherwise. He also reshares Tae's posts and participates willingly in the social media that Tae seems to be filming and is clearly spending time with him completely. But in this particular recent run of posts, the specifically Tae and Jungkook only material has overwhelmingly originated from Tae's account. 8-2, and the 2 on Jungkook's weren't even just him and Tae alone. And I think that distinction matters, not because of anything it has to say about Jungkook, it doesn't, but because the argument is, if the argument is look at what Jungkook is choosing to show us, then we should probably start by accurately identifying what Jungkook is choosing to show us. Because what he's choosing to show us is he's spending time with Tae and J-Hope. And this is where confirmation bias enters the chat. Because what happens when Tae appears in content with several members? Who gets noticed? Tae and Jungkook. Who was standing beside them? Who else was at the dinner? Who else was in the room, but not like in front of the camera? Who else was at the gym or in the reel? Who was mentioned 10 minutes before? Suddenly none of that matters because somebody has already decided that the important relationship in the scene is only about these 2 members. And we've talked about this in the last video. Once you've formed a hypothesis, your brain becomes remarkably good at finding material that confirms it and filtering out everything else it doesn't want to see. So if somebody already believes TaeKook is real, then what they will do is they'll look and see Tae and Jungkook together and go, see, I told you. And somebody who is anxious about Jimin and Jungkook's relationship and thinks they've broken up is going to look at the same piece of content and go, see, I told you. And somebody who isn't trying to construct a romantic narrative at all about it sees the same piece of content and goes, Tae and Jungkook went to the gym. And that's it. It's the same evidence. 3 completely different stories attached to one reel. That should immediately tell us something about how much of the conclusions that are being drawn are coming from the evidence and how much is coming from the person interpreting the evidence. One of the biggest problems with trying to reconstruct relationships through social media is the sample size we are given is not random. We aren't observing 24 hours of Jungkook's life, fully recording every person he interacts with. Thank goodness, because the man deserves some privacy. What we receive is a tiny selection of moments chosen for public consumption. That's Jungkook, that's Tae, that's Jimin, that's everyone. That's you, that's me. Imagine Jungkook shares 10 moments from an entire month. Tae appears in 3, Jin appears in 2, Hoseok appears in 2, and Jimin appears in none. That doesn't tell you what happened during that month and who he actually spent the majority of his time with at all. It can't. You can't make those judgments. You don't have the data for that. And therefore they weren't together doesn't work. You can't just magically fill in the missing hours with what you think might have happened. Which brings us to one of the fandom's favorite logical mistakes. If I didn't see it, then it didn't happen. We've done this before again as well. Many, many times. Someone isn't photographed arriving somewhere, therefore they weren't there. Someone isn't visible in the reel, therefore they weren't in the room. Someone isn't mentioned on a live stream, therefore clearly these two people haven't spoken in weeks. Someone isn't standing beside someone at the airport, and all of a sudden there's this whole narrative about how their relationship has changed. This is not evidence. Jimin does not stop existing just because he's not on Instagram, and neither does his relationship with Jungkook. I promise you. And there is an enormous problem with that current argument anyways, because relationships are not zero-sum. Jungkook spending time with Tae does not mean he can't also spend time with Jimin. Tae spending time with J-Hope doesn't mean his friendship with Jimin has vanished. Jin appearing repeatedly in Jungkook's content and vice versa, as they have done, doesn't mean that Jungkook has abandoned the other 5 members of BTS and entered into some sort of committed monogamous friendship with Kim Seok-jin alone. People have multiple relationships. They have different hobbies with different friends. They see different people at different times. Sometimes 3 friends might spend a lot of time together because they all enjoy the same activity. Going to the gym maybe and working out in the same way together. Maybe someone else doesn't join that activity because they don't enjoy doing it or they don't enjoy doing it in the same way. Sometimes people you love have interests that you absolutely do not share. And that's fine. That's just being a mature adult. And frankly, BTS is one of the strangest possible groups on which to try and impose that ideal, because the idea that closeness has to be exclusive, because you're talking about 7 men who have known each other and been living in each other's pockets almost consistently, barring enlistment, because of tours and such, for well over a decade. Their relationships overlap in a dozen or more different ways. Seeing Jungkook laughing with Tae is evidence that Jungkook was laughing with Tae. It is not evidence that something disastrous has happened to his relationship with Jimin. There is no bridge that logically connects those 2 statements. Now, while we're at it, let's talk about BigHit. Because apparently, BigHit is pushing TaeKook. And I have a problem with that argument that has absolutely nothing to do with whether anybody believes TaeKook is real or JiKook is real, or Namjoon, or Vmin, or Jungkook, or some BTS OT7 polyamory is happening. It removes the members' autonomy. Jungkook is an adult man approaching 30. Tae is an adult. Hobi is an adult. Jimin is an adult. If Jungkook chooses to film something with his friends and put it online, then unless somebody has actual evidence that the company has some conspiracy about it and has instructed him to do it, the reasonable starting assumption should be that Jungkook chose to film something with his friends and post it online. Not that some mysterious exec at HYBE is sitting behind a desk somewhere and goes, Excellent. Jungkook is uploaded to TaeKook again. Phase 4 of Operation Destroy JiKook is proceeding beautifully. Come on, guys. The especially funny part is that we've been here before. When people say, when there was lots of Jimin and Jungkook content, people said the exact same thing, that BigHit was pushing JiKook. Are you sure? Exists. People are pushing, or BigHit is pushing JiKook. Behind the scenes footage contains Jimin and Jungkook together. Editors are pushing JiKook. So now there's more visible TaeKook, and people are claiming that BigHit is pushing that, and on their own private socials, no less. Do you see the problem? That theory can literally explain every possible outcome. If we see lots of JiKook, it's company manipulation. If we see lots of TaeKook, it's company manipulation. Not much TaeKook, the company is hiding them. Not much JiKook. Clearly, the company is hiding them and doesn't want them to be seen. The company is hiding them. This is not, or pushing them. This is not a useful theory, one way or the other. A theory has to have some possible observation to prove it wrong. Otherwise, you're not actually testing evidence against a conclusion, and you're well on your way to conspiracy theory land. And that's not a place we want to go. And we won't go on this channel, I guarantee you. If you're changing the explanation every time new evidence changes, then you never have to change the conclusion. And that doesn't make any sense. The other thing that we have to consider in here is Jimin himself. Because Jimin's relationship with social media is not the same as Jungkook's relationship with social media. And we have repeatedly seen over the years how ugly online discourse gets surrounding when we're talking about posts surrounding Jimin, particularly when we're talking about shipping, Jungkook, gender presentation, relationship speculation. When all those things collide, it gets nasty. Really nasty. I'm not even going to go in and show you the worst of it because frankly, I don't feel like any of it deserves oxygen anymore, but it exists and has existed. And I've seen some really, really horrific stuff in the years that I've been in the fandom. So would Jimin have perfectly understandable reasons for being cautious about what parts of himself and his relationships he puts online? Absolutely. Does that mean I know why he posts as little as he does? No. And I'm not going to pretend to. That would be going against exactly what I'm criticizing from other people with filling in the blanks. The important point is this, though, that Jimin being largely absent from social media means his relationships with other members will also be largely absent from social media. It doesn't mean they disappear in real life. You cannot treat that absence as extraordinary evidence that he and Jungkook are no longer friends, they're no longer together, they don't even speak anymore. Because it's not consistent with actually proving a theory. And then we get to the breakup theory in and of itself. And this is the part where I start wondering whether some people maybe have consumed slightly too many K-dramas, because the variations of this narrative I've seen over and over and over again, and it doesn't get any prettier. Jimin and Jungkook were together, and something happened, and they broke up, and Jungkook immediately went running to get involved with Taehyung. Now he's flaunting his relationship with Tae all over social media because that's who he loves more instead. Guys, where does all that come from? Seriously, show me the evidence chain in all of that. We have observation. Jungkook has recently appeared publicly with Tae and other members quite a lot recently. Fine. What that piece of evidence establishes is he's spending time out with his friends. Again, It doesn't establish that he is not spending time with Jimin. There is nothing in there that says that he has ended his relationship, no matter what you feel that relationship is, with Jimin at all. It does not establish in any way that he has subsequently begun a romantic relationship with Tae or any other member of BTS. The reason we are seeing Tae and Jungkook online is because they're going to the gym together and posting stuff for fans because they know we like it. We can't really assume that it's more than that, can we? What establishes the reason we're seeing Tae and Jungkook online is because Jungkook wants everyone to know about his new boyfriend. There's nothing to prove that at all. And we've gone from one perfectly ordinary observation, which is two members of BTS are hanging out, to an entire breakup and rebound narrative, making exes jealous, etc., without having any collective evidence in between. That is not deduction. That is fan fiction. And you all know I love fan fiction. I bloody write it for a living, don't I? But I put the fiction label on it and make sure everyone knows it's pretend. So actually, indulge me for a moment here, okay? Let's accept that this breakup theory happened. That this is true, hypothetically. Not because I'm saying it happened, but I want to test whether the rest of this would then all even make sense. Suppose Jimin and Jungkook have been romantic partners for years, and that relationship ended very recently. At the start of all this, it would mean about 3 weeks ago, wouldn't it? Less than a month ago. Would we therefore be talking about an extremely significant relationship between two people who have known one another since they were teenagers, lived together, worked together, traveled together, enlisted together, and still have to perform together as members of the same 7-person group? And the theory is that Jungkook's immediate response to that breakup is to run to another member and publicly start flaunting the relationship with one of Jimin's closest friends while they're still working together. Really? Is that consistent with the Jungkook that you believe you have seen and watched for 13 years? And is that really consistent with Tae's long-standing friendship with Jimin? You know, the one where they've called each other soulmates in the past. That theory only works if we assume Tae cares so little about Jimin and Jungkook cares so little about Jimin that they would happily flaunt a new relationship all over social media. Because this is one thing I think people forget when they create these weird narratives like that, is that to make them work, you have to turn the members themselves into really horrible people. Tae becomes someone who would happily parade around with his best friend's ex, and Jungkook becomes someone so spectacularly insensitive. Hard Jungkook, baby star candy Jungkook, becomes someone so spectacularly insensitive that he would put it all over social media. And Jimin just silently endures it all while continuing to work and pretend that he's happy interacting with both of them. Is this considered the interpretation that respects BTS as human beings? Maybe. And bear with me here. Maybe Taehyung and Jungkook are friends. Maybe they hanging out and going to the gym with each other occasionally. And maybe neither of those things tells us a single thing about whether a private relationship, romantic or otherwise, exists between Jimin and Jungkook, or has stopped existing between Jimin and Jungkook. I know, it's wild. One final distinction I really want everyone to understand is that the absence of evidence is not automatically the absence of evidence, because sometimes absence can become meaningful. If someone posts every day with 6 members and deliberately excludes the 7th for a year, then perhaps eventually you have a pattern there that's worth discussing. But that's not what we're looking at. We're looking at 10 pieces of social media content, 8 of which have been initiated by Tae, 2 initiated by Jungkook, and neither of those 2 were couples photos anyway. So what can we actually say? We can actually say the facts are that Jungkook has been visibly spending time with Tae, Hosek, and Jin. We can say that Jimin is significantly less visible online. Not a surprise. We can say Jimin and Jungkook therefore appear together less frequently in the Instagram data set that we have by default. And then we have to stop, because all the rest of this, they're no longer close, they've broken up, Jungkook's run off with Tae, BigHit is pushing TaeKook, they never spend any time together privately anymore. These are not observations, they are not facts. We don't know this at all. Those are guesses. They're made-up explanations filling the spaces where we don't have facts. And if there's no evidence to prove that something has changed, then you don't get to just declare that it has and make up a reason after. So if JiKook broken up, I have absolutely no idea, and neither do you. And neither does the person on Twitter who has constructed a 37-post thread involving airport seating arrangements, Instagram upload times, and the precise angle at which Jungkook once glanced at a restaurant door. Maybe Jimin and Jungkook are still romantic partners, maybe they're not. Maybe something has changed. Maybe absolutely nothing has changed. Personally, I don't see any evidence at all from their interactions on stage recently. And I can't imagine that if a relationship of that depth and that magnitude that's been going on for over a decade had disintegrated, and now one of the people is flaunting a new boyfriend, I really do feel we'd see something in their interaction on stage that hinted at there might be something wrong. And I don't see that at all. My point is, if I believe they're together, until I see something that makes me believe they are no longer together, then I'm just going to assume that everything is fine. And that's how I feel about this. Because these 10 posts, most of which originating with Tae's social media, I don't see as being significant at all to any of this. So, thank you for listening to my rant. I'll get off my soapbox now. But please stick to the facts, guys. Please, I'm begging you. Because I really don't want to have to come back here and make part 3 of this. You know, the Jimin still exists when you close Instagram thing. If you like your JiKook discussion based on facts and evidence, please hit that subscribe button. This channel here at CJ Moon Facts is where all the only facts and JiKook analysis and discussion and commentary is now based. If you want to join in the conversation and be part of the community, talk about this more often, you can find the community at patreon.com/CJ Moon. JiKook are fine, guys. They really are. I love you. I purple you. Sarangai.